coach. Without giving away your full game plan, why don't you fill us in on how things have been going and what you're looking for on Saturday?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just a lot of praise and respect for our opponent. After the opportunity to sit back and really evaluate and watch this Oregon team continue to be so impressed with how they play, the style they play with in really all three phases of the game. And, know it's going to be a great challenge for our team and our football program. And, from our end, it's been really good for us to kind of get back into since Christmas, really get back into a rhythm of football practice and getting ourselves ready and prepared for the game. So obviously with any of that said, I'll answer any questions that anybody might have from my end.
Great. First up, we're going to go with Jeff Metcalf from the Arizona Republic.
Matt, when Iowa State fans have been here twice before for the smaller bowl game, what do you think? What's the general feeling and excitement to be here for the big game and just to have reached into your sixth bowl game?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hard for me to answer that just because, we're in such a different time where you can really feel our fan base, and we have such a tremendous fan base that has supported us through a lot of really lean years and has really come on strong as we have continued to grow our program over the last couple of years. But I think a lot of the feedback from our alumni and a lot of feedback from our general fan base, I think there is there's a really good pride around this year's football team and, the growth that this program has been able to make. And, what an honor to be able to play in the Fiesta Bowl in a game that has this kind of magnitude and obviously this kind of tradition around it.
Fantastic. Next, we'll go to Andrew Morgan. Andrew?
Yeah, Coach. So, oftentimes coaches have mentors that they've learned from over the years. How much did you learn from playing for Ohio legends such as your father or Coach Wakefield? How much did you lean on them today? And are there any similarities in your current coaching style to that of your father or Wakefield?
Yeah, I think both of those influences have had a profound impact on my life. I think, I know a lot of coaches have there's probably a lot of coaches out there that have different kind of mentors. But for me, I think my greatest mentors in my life are, number one, my father, obviously growing up, being around this sport, being around a locker room, being around, a person of influence impacting and empowering the lives of young people. And watching that occur as a young child, I think that had a profound impact on me. And then, playing for, a gentleman in Keith Wakefield who, continues to have great success, has always gotten the best out of players, taught us, not only the game of football, but taught us the game of life. I think those are things that had a profound impact on me then and continue to have a profound impact on me today. And, I'm really grateful to have those two men still in my life, still count on those guys for, guidance, and they continue to have a great role in not only myself, but obviously in the program that we've been able to establish here at Iowa State.
Thank you, Coach. Travis Hines from the Ames Tribune.
Hey, Matt, I was just curious. I think a lot of people look at bowl games one of two ways, either as a coda to the end of a season or the springboard to the next. And I was curious what your thoughts on that were, both generally, I guess, and specific to your guys' situation this year.
Yeah, I think from my end, it's always been a little bit of both. I think the uniqueness of this year with, almost kind of feeling in the rhythm of our season with having, 2 weeks to prepare, which is, not so different than the way we played a lot of our football season this year. That, I think it feels a lot more like a finish to a season rather than, just a springboard. Obviously, with sometimes in a springboard, it's those practices leading up to the game that you've used as an evaluation tool, where I really think the entirety of the year has allowed us to not only prepare for the here and now, but also prepare for our future. So, I think in a lot of ways, it's a finish to what this team has started.
Adam Rittenberg from ESPN.
Hey, man, I'm just out writing about the number of quarterbacks from the state of Arizona. Obviously, 2 in this game, the 2 starters, and there's just Spencer Rattler. There's a bunch around the country. I'm just wondering why you think we've seen this rise in the last few years from a state that, has good football, but isn't producing like a Florida or a Texas or a California, Ohio overall.
Yeah, Adam, what a great, obviously a great research topic, to be honest, because it's really come to fruition here over the last couple of years. I think when I think about Brock's experiences, that's the guy that I can probably comment on the best. You're talking about a young man who, you look at his father's background, in the world of Major League Baseball, settled in the state of Arizona for, life after baseball. And then, you talk about Brock's training. I think you get to travel, you train year round. You're outside, you get to throw, you get to do those things with the weather there. I just think there's a lot of huge positive to that. And obviously the high school football in the state of Arizona, I just think even during my time here at Iowa State, the growth of so many programs down there has seemed to explode. And I think you're seeing just a continued rise in the level of high school football, not just at the quarterback position in the state of Arizona. And it's been really impressive to recruit and obviously be a part of the recruiting process in that state.
Thank you. We'll go to Jose Romero from the Arizona Republic.
Hey, Matt. What was the sign, I guess, or what told you that you had something special in Breece Hall and the kind of numbers that he's put up? I guess what was that moment that shined a light on you that said this is a guy that can be really successful in our program?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a moment per se. I think we always knew Breece had really special talent. I think probably his ability to take his talent and take the expectation of standard of how we practice and how we go about our business and kind of reaching his full potential really came midway through his freshman year a year ago at West Virginia. Breece I think we were navigating as a football program, trying to find, a true starting tailback for us. And, it was probably the midpoint of the season a year ago at West, playing in a away game at West Virginia, where Breece really, I felt like, took reins of not only, that running back position, but also, kind of the standard of expectation that we have for all of our positions and how you practice, how you prepare, and being a young guy to be able to do that so early in his career, that's a tribute to him. But, I thought he really put it all together by the midway point of his freshman year. And I think a lot of his production has shown since then.
Randy Peterson, Des Moines Register.
Morning, Matt. Excuse me. Other than Jaquan Bailey, a wonderful storyline for your team has been the offensive line. For years, it's always been at Iowa State. Iowa State will go as far as the offensive line takes it. Well, I don't hear that this year. I don't hear criticism of the offensive line. Can you tell me about the evolution of that line and what's made that line now that it's no longer the Achilles heel of the team?
Yeah, I just think, again, an offensive line, especially, and I think, Randy, you could probably know that as good as anybody. When we came in here, the level of, just where we were in terms of that offensive line room, it was down, in terms of scholarship numbers, almost to the bare bones. The ability to have to really rebuild that from the ground up was probably, more there than anywhere in our football program. I think from our end, I've said this, there's not a lot of quick fixes at Iowa State. We're always going to be, a developmental program in terms of developing our team. And, nothing takes longer to develop than the offensive line. It's a learned skill. It's a learned trait. And, I just think that it's taken time to get that room to where it needs to be from a competitive standpoint, from a depth standpoint. It's a group that's been hit by a lot of injury this year, to some super talented football players, and really forced to, kind of challenge the depth and the youth of that line and the development of it. A lot of credit to Coach Myers. I think he's done an absolutely incredible job, really taking that development to the next level. And, both from a recruiting standpoint and really from a physical developmental standpoint. So, I think it's a group that still isn't a finished product, still has ability to continue to grow. And that part's really exciting, but I think has made big steps from where it was obviously 4 years ago and really where it was even a year ago.
James Crapia from the Oregonian.
Matt, for those of us a little bit less versed in all your personnel, when you bring in a junior college transfer like Xavier, and he's the 10th JUCO wide receiver and 76th JUCO overall prospect, rated at least, were you expecting him to be able to contribute in quite the way he has and immediately? And how has he been able to do that for you? Because there's probably not too many JUCO transfers at the skill positions rated in that way who put up 700 yards and lead their team at the Power 5 level in receiving yards.
Yeah, I think from our end in terms of the recruiting process of Xavier, the rating and, I'm not really big into ratings and probably wouldn't even know statistically what he was rated coming into Iowa State, other than the fact of, I think there was a great respect factor watching Xavier's film from his first year in junior college, knowing what, we've been fortunate to have some really talented receivers here over the last couple of years, and identifying those skill traits and the mentality traits that those guys had to be successful. And, finding a match in that with Xavier through the recruiting process was really exciting for us. And then not only, what his skill set was, but really what the mentality was. And I think that's so critical to the development of any player. And, I think that's really what's lended Xavier to have such an incredible year. He has got elite work ethic. He's a young man that's got really comfortability of who he is and what he wants to become. And he's really gone to work from day one that he got here. And I think when you have great talent and then you have elite work ethic on top of it, there at some point you're always going to have the opportunity to become the best version of yourself you can be. And, I really think Xavier has been a prime example of that in our football program. You've just seen him get better and better and better as our season's gone on. And a lot of that's the credit of the work and the commitment that he made in the off season and really through quarantine. And a lot of credit to him because a lot of that work was done on his own.
John Schaefer from WOI.
Matt, can you talk about the standard that your tight end group has now set at Iowa State, and then more specifically what your relationship with Charlie Kohler is like? He loves to have some fun in press conferences talking about you a little bit, but what's that relationship like?
Yeah, I think first the standard piece of it, I really agree. I really appreciate what this group has done for the expectation of the tight end position here at Iowa State now. The group, you take talent out of it and you talk about the time put in, the work ethic, the commitment to the craft. Tight end's another position. If 1A is developmental in terms of offensive line, 1B would be the tight end position. What you ask a tight end to do in terms of blocking and receiving and understanding defensive football, it takes a lot of work to be really good at the tight end position. And to have what these three guys have done, what we ask these guys to do in terms of the multiplicity of scheme and where we put them on the football field, these guys have really raised the level of excellence across the board. And, so much of that excellence has been due to what they've done when nobody's watching, their time, their effort, their preparation to become their best. That's where those guys have really stood out. And, they've been fortunate to get the results of what their hard work has given them the ability to do. And then from a Charlie standpoint, I think for me, I've got so much pride in what Charlie is outside of football. I've got a great relationship. I think there's a great trust factor between both of us and each other. What my sincere appreciation for Charlie is he's a young man that he knows how to stand on his own 2 feet. He's a young man that's highly intelligent. He's a young man that not just defined by football. And I really appreciate that about him. I appreciate who he is as a human being, what he does for his family and his commitment to excellence outside of football. And I think all those things have allowed us to develop just a tremendous relationship amongst each other. And, one of the great prides that I have is who Charlie has become and really what he stands for.
Thanks, Coach. Nick King from Arizona's Family, Channel 3, Channel 5.
Hey, Matt. This might seem pretty obvious considering that I don't think you guys even are able to get into town until Thursday, but what's different about being in a bowl game this year? Does it feel like bowl week? And from your guys' end, was there any discussion or consideration about whether or not to play in a bowl game this year?
Yeah, I think the bowl process is obviously unique, and I think in a lot of ways unique just how the whole season's been set up. And so, I would say, I don't know if it feels any different or not different, but it is different, and I think the positive about it is there's probably a lot of real positives. There's not a 4-week break between your last game and a bowl game. And I think there's probably a lot of positivity to that, and maybe something hopefully our profession can look into. I think the second piece of it, part of the question that you asked is, from our end in our program. And that's one of the things I've really enjoyed coaching this team. This team's never flinched with the circumstances that we couldn't control. Obviously COVID and what some of the challenges that it has brought to the entirety of the season. And, our kids love to play football. They love each other, and they've really gone to work from really March on to become the best version of themselves they can be. And, to have an honor to play in a game like this and again, to do things that this program has never done. And in a lot of ways, nobody thought could ever do. What an honor for us to be a part of a game like this and to play an opponent like we're about to play.
I'm going to go with Ben Visser from Cedar Rapids Gazette.
Hey, Coach, what have you seen from Hasheem Young and Mason Chambers? I mean, two young guys that really missed a typical summer to get better and improve. What have you seen from them this season, especially Mason late in the season?
Yeah, I'll start with Hasheem. I think Hasheem is very similar to Brees in a lot of ways, where he's an elite talent and a young man that he loves football, and his training in January, February, March, April, and May, even when we couldn't be here, Hasheem was doing everything in his power to be the best football player he can be. And I think a lot of his productivity and success has certainly come from the time and the effort and the commitment that he's made to doing those things. And then you talk about Mason. I think Mason's maturity as the season's gone on. I think a really hard year for freshmen. Mason's a young man that graduated early, came here in January, and, most of the time that would lend for experience and a really good foundation. But I think almost in a year like this, it's almost a little bit of maybe a negative if he came in January, because, it's been a long, long year. And, Mason has never really flinched, kind of like I talked about our football team. I think he's only continued to improve. His improvement has earned the trust by our coaching staff to put him in critical situations in games. And we've been really pleasantly surprised by what he's been able to do. In some of our biggest moments, a couple plays against Texas, certainly a couple plays last week, he's had the ability to stand up and make some plays, and it continues to earn trust amongst our coaching staff. And I'm really excited about what his future looks like as well.
Zachary Martin, Iowa State Daily.
Hey, Coach, 2 questions for you. One, what's the status of Trevor and Dylan heading for Saturday? And 2, when it was announced you guys were going to be playing Fiesta Bowl, how excited were you that Brock gets to come home and play in his home state? For, who knows if this is going to be his last game at Iowa State or not?
Yeah, Brock has another year though, Zach. But so let's talk about the first question that you talked about. And, I think the first thing that I would say from our end about the game is, I think a really good situation for our football team in general. I definitely think about Brock, and Brock's been such a key component to why our football team and program even had an opportunity to have success year in and year out. Since the first day that he stepped into the position of quarterback to play for this team, he's given Iowa State every opportunity to have success on the football field. And, for him to be able to go back to his home state where he had tremendous success, I think that's really awesome. Kobe Hathcock's a young freshman that's had great success for us as well. And, exciting for him to go back and be able to be a part of this game. So, I think in general, there's just a general excitement and appreciation that we've been able to put ourselves in position to play in a game of this magnitude. Oh, Trevor and Dylan. Dylan played last week. He'll be ready to play, and Trevor has kind of really been day to day a little bit. Again, we'll see if he's ready to get back on the football field this week.
All right, Travis, I'm going to let you do a quick follow up here.
Just a couple extra housekeeping things. Just if you could give us any insight on Latrell's decision and how that guy affects you guys, and what Remsburg's status for Saturday is.
Yeah, Latrell obviously, is a great young man. Made a decision for the betterment of himself, and we support all of our football players that do make decisions for the best interest of themselves. And then number two, obviously Jake got dinged up in the early part of that game. Again, he's done a really good job here the last couple of weeks. We'll kind of see where he's at by Saturday.
Jordan Ham, Sports 360 Arizona.
Hi, Coach. I want to go back to Brock's recruitment. That was the first class that you had an early signing day. And we saw in Arizona how much that impacted his recruitment. And he eventually signed with you guys in February. What was it from your perspective, adding that new aspect to recruiting players and specifically recruiting Brock?
Yeah, I don't know if I remember much about the early signing piece of it, other than I knew, he didn't sign on the first signing opportunity. But, I just think in general for Brock Purdy, for me, it was an instant, I think an instant appreciation for everything that he was about and he stood for. I think we decided that we were going to take a quarterback as the season was coming to an end. We had a really unique situation with a senior at that time, Kyle Kemp, who was in limbo between, was he going to get a 6-year or not? In terms of his eligibility. And, we decided as the season was coming to an end that we were going to go recruit a quarterback. And, I remember going to our recruiting department, who's the best quarterback out there that has not signed somewhere. We watched Brock's film and instantly fell in love with the competitor and the leadership that almost exploded off the videotape. And, I think it goes to show you, your senior year videotape means a lot in the recruiting process. And, I don't know if there was anybody that had as good a videotape as a senior than what Brock did for his high school program. And then obviously on top of the videotape, who he was, what his family stood for, what kind of character and leadership intangibles that he carried, equating to exactly what our program needed and what we were looking for. And it's been a pure joy to be able to coach Brock, and obviously that relationship is really strong. So for me, it's that whole process was huge for Iowa State football and huge for our football program.
Well, with that great answer on a great quarterback from Arizona, we're going to conclude this session with Coach Campbell. Matt, thank you very much for your time this morning. We will visit with Coach Campbell again on Friday morning, 8:30 Mountain Standard Time, along with Coach Cristobal. Zoom link to follow. In the meantime, Coach, good luck with your preparations. We'll see you on Thursday night here, and good luck with everything. Thanks again for being a part of the 50th Annual Fiesta Bowl.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
All right.